The views and opinions expressed within the video content found on the Indie Comics Network are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of the Indie Comics Network or its sponsors.
Hello. Who's going to say the first opening there?
Hey, how we doing? Welcome everybody to Sketchy Saturdays. We are back. We are the Council of Three today. How we doing?
I'm upside down.
Yeah, you're upside down.
Hanging from a tree.
Yep.
Yeah. I'm sorry I can't do anything else about it because then I would have to put the phone in front of me and you would see even less. So here you go. This is what you're getting today.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, I forgot the arm holding my phone normally. It's been a weird couple of weeks, guys.
Okay.
That's okay. You'll just have to distract us with your verbal whimsy, you know.
Yep.
Actually make a point about things. How about we introduce ourselves? Let's start with John.
Okay. I'm John. I'm John Celestri. I've been doing comics and animation for about 50 years. I'm still going. I'm still alive. I'm kicking, and I'm an outlier. So that's and I'm doing my own little story, Bloodwing Angel, and I'm working on panels for the next book. Oh, and who is this? Wait a minute. Wait a minute.
Hold on. How did he get here?
Outlier. Who is he?
Hello there. How are you?
Uh-oh. He sounds British. Right.
Yeah.
Groovy, baby.
I just came back from Scotland, please.
No, I thought I'm actually working today. I've got to draw some Cybermen for the BBC. So I thought while I was at the board, I should drop in and say hi. I wanted to say hi to C. You must be out there watching us right now.
Or asleep.
Or asleep, maybe. Yeah. But so I just thought I'd drop by. That's rather nice, Rodney.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Yeah.
So yeah,
I almost messed up. I have to save the
drop in.
Star Wars piece for Monday, not today.
Well,
While I'm talking, I'll introduce myself. I'm Rodney Fyke. I am an artist writer for Hasm Productions, and you can catch me right here on the Indie Comics Network on Mondays at 5:30 for Fyke It Let's Draw, and Thursday night for Thursday Night Throwdown at 8 p.m. And you can check out all my socials on Rodney Fyke Art and Hasm.com. So,
neat.
that's me. That's what I do.
Hey, well, hey everyone. I'm Mike Jimmy Brown, creator of La Foncora and CEO of Fairies and Ends. Been a publisher for about 5 years now, and been drawing comics for about the same time too. And my life has been upside down, and everything has been flipped around. So I'm unprepared. But it's good to be around you guys again and hanging out. Yeah, and you can find everything about me and all the things we publish over on fairiesandends.com. And Russ, who are you?
Hello there. My name's Russ Leach. I'm a comic book artist from the UK, and I'm currently working on a project for the BBC and Doctor Who, but you can also see my work in Hero Time Presents Batman across Europe. Excuse me. And I also have my own book, Only Death Can Save Us. And you can find out all about that at russleach.com. There you go.
Nice.
Sweet.
You gonna be all right there, Mike?
Yeah, I'll be fine. I'll be fine. No, last week I had to miss you guys because I went to Glasgow. Because in January, Luce, my girlfriend, called me on a Friday while I was working, going, "What are all the names on your passport?" To which my reply was, "That is a very scary question. Please explain yourself." And she was like, "No, I got 10 minutes to book our vacation to Glasgow. When, how, what?" And we had a lovely week together. Sadly, she was a little sick, but okay. We still did a lot of fun things. We went to an awesome concert of Sabaton, Baby Metal, and Lortia, which she booked before she booked the rest of the vacation. And yeah, it's been a lovely week. We've been to the Loch Lomond, made some lovely pictures, and did a ton of things. But yeah, that's why I missed Sketchy Saturday. That's why I missed Hung on Animation. And now we're back, which is very nice because I need to get work done. But yeah, like it's life is feeling messy right now, and I got to get my things back on track.
Wow.
It's always
That
good.
being said, yeah, so that's why I'm inking Love on Korra today, so I don't have to think too much. But this is also the last panel that I have penciled. So from here on out, I'm going to have to do hand penciling again. And I don't know. I'm done with the story before I'm done with the actual story. So I'm, yeah, not there yet.
Sounds like fun.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's pushing myself to get done. You know, act all professional and stuff.
There you go. Do what you got to do.
Mm-hmm.
Russ, what you said that you were doing Doctor Who for BBC?
Yeah, I'm doing a special for the Doctor Who magazine.
Can you expound on that a little bit, or are you allowed? Or?
No, I can't really.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Yeah, you're sworn to secrecy until it happens.
It will be out soon, though. It's a special, and it's going to be out sort of in a couple of months, I think.
Cool.
Hey,
so you don't have to wait too long.
Trying.
Yeah, and obviously, once we're off camera, I can say what I trust you guys. But yeah, I'll keep it to a minimum. I don't think they mind, occasionally, like, dropping a piece of art or showing something in progress. That's okay. I can't. I'm careful about what I
completely
say.
spilling the beans is not okay.
No, it's not. No. So I mean, what I'm drawing here, I can say, Cybermen, but everybody knows Cybermen are involved with Doctor Who. It's not a big deal. And there may be things in here that you kind of think, well, what's that? But if you've got no frame of reference, then it's all it is just me, drawing. So
Right.
So that's okay. But it's always fun. This one's on a bit of a tight schedule, which is why I'm working today. I unfortunately, at the moment, my wife's father is quite ill, so she's spending a lot of time with him during the week. So Saturdays are usually the only time we get to be together, and that's why I've not been on the show in quite a while, just because I haven't had the chance to. So I thought, damn it, I'm sitting here working. I might as well come on and shoot the breeze for you guys.
Well, it's good to have you. It's always fun having you on.
I always like
Thank you.
That sounds that's good. Works for us. So speaking of tight schedules, guys, I saw I am a part of the John Byrne fan group on Facebook, and somebody posted a sheet of his handwritten schedule for I guess it was 1982 or it was like March through December. He X-Men, Uncanny X-Men 135. He was doing a Batman special, but he basically did issue 135 of X-Men in 5 days.
Jeez.
Oh God!
Wow.
So he would schedule it out where Monday and Tuesday he was working, and he didn't work on the weekends. Monday and Tuesday he was working on the Batman stuff that I think actually never saw print for whatever reason. It was for Coca-Cola. And Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, it was Uncanny, and then the next week it was Monday, Tuesday, Uncanny, and the rest of the week it was Batman. So we like flip-flopped it. But he did it. He did 135 and 136 in 5 days.
Wow.
What, he did 2 issues in 5 days?
It's crazy.
That
is
was that 18 pages a strip in each back then?
It was 22 and a cover.
22.
And he was also doing Amazing Spidey and spot issues of Marvel 2-in-1.
Yeah, but he was doing that while he was asleep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That doesn't count.
That's the on the side dream job right there.
Yeah, good God.
But
that's just scary.
Thinking about it.
Yeah, I remember being a kid and like, oh man, cool, John's drawing this too. Oh, cool, John's drawing this too.
Yeah. Now, did he do? Was that full pencils?
Apparently, yes.
Yeah.
Wow.
Good Lord, that's just incredible.
Yeah, because if you look at any of his art books and you see pages from those issues, they are complete pencils with shading and everything.
Wow. How do you physically do it in that time? I mean, even if every pencil stroke is perfect and you don't rub it out, how can you do it in that time? That's incredible.
I just think that John was so good.
Yeah.
I mean, his run on She-Hulk and or not She-Hulk, but Namor, some of the later stuff he did for Marvel, he was just doing straight inks. He wasn't even penciling.
Good Lord.
So, I mean, you guys know if you can do that. And I've watched him at shows do that. When he was working on his Next Men stuff, he would be sitting there just drawing pages just straight with an ink pen. I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah. Incredible.
Give me what you're smoking.
That's a whole different level, isn't it? It really is.
Yeah. I just thought that would be a nice little thing to talk about and how
Yeah, well, it's a depressing thing, really. It's just,
Yeah, something all of us to quote unquote aspire to.
yeah. No, I'm not. I'm afraid it's
No,
too
I don't
late for me.
aspire to a broken hand.
Yeah.
Well, how old was he at the time that he was maintaining that schedule?
He was probably in his early 30s.
Okay.
No.
Yeah, that's a different story.
Yeah.
I mean, there is a certain period of time when you can just grind it out. I mean, professionally, and I'm only talking about it from an animation point of view. And doing complete drawings and roughs, and getting everything in there, and you have the energy to do that.
Mm.
And you're just like, okay, who was inking him at the time?
Terry Austin.
Okay.
Yeah, at the age of 30, I was art directing, and we were doing all-nighters to get work done.
Yeah.
So as much as I wasn't drawing at that point in time, designing, organizing photography and what have you, and artwork sessions, and then going all night, so you made sure you got print deadlines. I could do that back then. I couldn't do that now. Not a chance.
At the age of 30, I still had to reach that.
Yeah.
You're not 30 yet.
Shut up.
No.
You can leave the room.
Yeah, get out of it.
I turned 30 in August. We have 5 more months, guys. We are completely allowed to laugh, and you're allowed to point and laugh the moment I reach it, okay?
Okay.
Well, you know what's going to happen is that suddenly, as soon as you hit that that age, you will hit a wall, and suddenly you will wake up and say, "Oh my good Lord, I sound like my father."
No. Don't worry. I've been doing that since 22.
Oh, okay. Well,
the only difference, The only difference between my dad and I is the amount of hair on my head.
You will really feel it, yes.
Yeah.
I mean, I knew you were young, but I didn't realize you were still in your 20s.
Yeah, no. I'm there we go. So,
Baba.
last week I went to the Glasgow History Museum, and they had this beautiful wooden statue of this working father that just it hit me. So I'm actually inking that because I made a quick study sketch of it, and I figured I might as well do that today.
Sweet.
Oh, you got it right side up.
Yeah, I actually have it right side up now. Before people are going to be like, "So what is he doing?" Well,
it's Batman and his new son.
Oh no, not another one.
Upside down, man.
How many did he adopt at this point?
I know. You just can't keep up.
No, you really can't, though.
He does it for the tax breaks.
Jeez.
I stand corrected on some of the. Terry Austin wasn't inking all of John's stuff. Dan Green inked a lot of his stuff on Marvel 2-in-1, and Joe Sinnott inked him on Fantastic Four.
Oh, Joe Sinnott.
No, I actually have a lot of commissions coming up that involve drawing humans again, so this is a nice study to start from, because I haven't drawn them in forever.
That's right. You've been drawing all those little freaky alien animals.
Yeah, exactly.
And I say that with the utmost respect and affection.
I know. It's fine. Like, I'm not offended at all.
Oh, we can change that.
Give us time. It's early. We just got started.
Yeah.
True love, right there. True appreciation of an artist. It sucks. Yeah. This is Artist Anonymous. We all think we suck, but here we are drawing anyway.
We draw because we need to.
Yeah,
It's an addiction.
it's a compulsion.
Yeah.
without a doubt.
It really is.
Yeah. And a compulsion is to do it because it's not just the mental thing, it's the physical aspect to it.
Yeah.
You know?
Without doubt.
You know, that's as much as I understand the need to, to do the work on a Cintiq, digitally, I just have to do it, the touch and feel of pencil on paper. It's very much an emotional.
Yeah, I've
it's
moved.
very sensual in many ways. It's a technical need.
I've moved back to inking traditionally full time.
Yeah.
So I do the penciling on the Wacom because it's quick.
Exactly.
I totally understand what you're talking about as far as the interaction of pencil on paper, because I do that still.
Yeah.
But I tend to do this for speed, especially when it's when it's a client. But all the inking I do now is exclusively brushwork again, and there is something special about having those physical pieces of artwork, and also the work itself, as you say, the physicality of it.
Yes.
Yeah. Nothing beats that organic pencil on paper.
Right. Do you find that now? Russ, do you find that the paper is a different quality paper than what you used to maybe 30 years ago?
The trouble is I'm drawing on different kinds of paper, so I couldn't give you an accurate answer.
Okay.
Also, I tend to ink because what I do is I have a process of printing them out blue line.
Right.
I use a slightly lighter weight Bristol board so that I can put it through the printer. So even that, I'm not even inking on the same stuff that I used to ink on back in the day.
Okay, yeah.
So I can't really give an answer, not an accurate one.
Okay.
What Russ, what size paper are you putting through the printer?
A3, so that's effectively, is it 11 by 15 in the States?
Okay.
Pretty much, it's a very similar size to a standard board that you'd use for Comicbook.
What's the weight on it? I put the Bristol 300 series.
Right.
That's what I run through my printer
because you have pounds over there, don't you? And we use GSM.
Yeah. Okay.
It's grams per square meter.
Okay.
So normally I would work, or I used to work on a 240 grams per square meter, and now running it through the printer, I use a 180. So you can see the difference in the GSM there. So it's not half the weight, but it's substantially less.
Okay.
And it just means that the printer can cope with it.
Right.
Back in the day, I would buy my bristle board. It'd be large sheets. I think they were at like the 18 by 22 inch.
Oh, right, that's big, yeah.
Back then, because we had it in my neighborhood, and I'm talking about when I was, we're talking about in the late 50s, early 60s. Bristle board you could get, be like 1 ply, 2 ply, 3 ply.
Right.
And so there was the stiffness of, and I didn't that's how I understood it. And that was those were the references that you had. And you either had it, and you had it on a smooth side, you had a smooth side and a rough side. Okay. Yeah. Then you could also buy, it was called a plate vision, which was very smooth on both sides. And you use that more for brush for a pen work.
Yeah,
because you wouldn't pick up fibers on the nib.
Yeah,
right. Yeah, I used to when I used to get the heavier Bristol, it was different on either side.
Yeah,
the stuff I'm using now is smooth as silk on both sides.
Yeah,
and then if I was just doing, if I wasn't going to ink something, then I'd use cartridge paper anyway.
Okay.
Which is a slightly rougher feel to it, slightly more textured.
Yeah, because there were some. The reason I bring that up is because there was some cartoonists. Then we're talking about for newspaper, okay, printing, and sports cartoonist Willard Mullen. He used the rougher side to use a Conte pencil crayon to do shading on his line work.
Oh wow.
And if you look him Willard Mullins, he was sort of like the dean of sports cartoonists from the 20s, 30s, and 40s and 50s, even to the 60s. He was the first one that I picked up on for doing very fast sketches but action poses.
Right.
And he really picked. He was a amazingly a great artist, and it wasn't just cartoony. He did caricatured, but it was caricatured action, an enormous amount of wit in what he did. Well, he was the equivalent of a political cartoonist, because sports cartooning was a thing in New York, at least.
Oh yeah.
You know? And so you'd have, he did he was noted for designing the Brooklyn Dodger bum. It's a very sports iconic character that he would use.
Huh. God, I haven't thought about
a long time ago.
Yeah,
Yes.
That's been forever.
Yeah.
So my introduction to sports illustrating cartoons was Jack Davis.
Okay.
The bubblegum ads that they ran on the backs of the comics.
Oh yeah.
And then he did some stuff for Mad Magazine, and I just really, and well, he worked for Erie too.
Yeah.
And I was just really drawn to that line work as a young kid. And he was another one of his stuff that Neil Adams, as a very young kid, I'm talking like 5, 6, 7 years old, when I was just realizing, different styles and stuff. Him and Neil Adams, I was like really going to the, corner grocery store in the spinner rack and looking for that look. I didn't realize what I was looking at for, I didn't know, okay, this looks this way because this guy drew it. I was a kid. I didn't know.
You just knew what you liked.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So yeah, those were the two. And then I found John Byrne in the late 70s, and it was all over.
Yeah, it's funny how we were talking about like our favorite artists on the show the other day on Sunday Funnies last week, I think it was. Mm-hmm. Just how difficult it is to pick out. We had a top 5, and of course it's so difficult to pick out a top 5 because you have so many artists that have such an effect on you, and we would some unconscious and some conscious, and it's only when other people point out the similarities in your work to certain artists you go, I never even thought that artist had any effect on me. And then we were talking again on Friday morning, and it occurred to us all, it's a myriad, isn't it? It's like this network of artists specific, I think, to comic book art, where they're all feeding off each other. Mm-hmm. And it's not just feeding off those people, your contemporaries at that moment in time, but also backwards and forwards in time.
Yeah.
And you can look at people like Buscema and see you see Prince Valiant in some of his work, and you just like we were looking at work that seemed to be inspirational to anything from the artists in 2000 AD all the way through to Neil Adams, and it's a wonderful thing to see that sort of interaction across time between so many artists.
Yeah, it's really it's a whole aspect of comics that is just, it's like a subcategory that people are very passionate about.
Oh yeah, it's definitely a passionate thing. It's I mean all artists are passionate about their art, but there's something. I'm not suggesting that people are more passionate about comics. That's not what I'm saying at all. What I'm saying is it's slightly different because it's not just the art. It's like the whole genre. It's like a whole package, and it's very specific to comics. I think. I don't think. Well, certainly in my view, there's nothing else like comics as far as art is concerned, or as
Agreed.
far as storytelling is concerned. It's the best storytelling medium, and it initiates a real relationship with it. I think whether you're just reading or whether you're actually creating, or you're indeed doing both.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, for me, it's always about the story and the acting.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
that's the big thing here. Is it how much movement? Okay, there's a difference between a picture that is a tableau of what's happening. Okay, and you're reading it. It's like the medieval paintings or the or even just huge canvas paintings during the Renaissance. They all have different elements to it, but there's still a story there. For me, it's the panel to panel movement of what's happening, and that to me is the storytelling aspect to it.
Yeah,
which makes it a unique art form that isn't really used as a regular thing. I mean, you could have a lot of action going on, but there's a lot of story that has to be told, very similarly to silent films.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I've taken some young folks under my wings from time to time and teaching them about pacing and stuff. And I for whatever reason, I find that fun. Explaining how to execute pace, and at a beat, maybe even repeating a panel, or just adding panels in between that are just kind of mundane to just kind of pause the action and stuff, and they realize when you see that look on their face when they realize what you're trying to tell them, and it's like, oh, it's like yes, welcome to our world.
Yeah.
Yeah, there is definitely a beat, a pattern to the way that you tell the story visually, and what's fantastic about comic book art and the different artists is that you have different styles, but you also have within the artists a different appreciation of an understanding about the beats and about how they pace their own work. So it's not just script. You can have three different scripts, and you can have a script, and three different artists will beat it differently, even though all three of them may tell the story equally as well. They'll all have their own way and their own beat to it, and that's I think that's what makes comic book art, sequential art, so personal.
Well, I came across a realization that I can't work with a writer.
I'm gonna be honest. Writers are hard to work with quite often.
Work with? Have you ever gone to lunch with one?
I'm glad mine live in the UK and the United States. Thank you very much.
Well, actually, the point, the reason when I discovered that I can't do that because I was very young. I was maybe about 14 years old, and I met this guy, and we sort of I thought we hit it off okay. It was in. I was visiting. It was this during a period of time when national publications, the Superman DC, had tours.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
And I was maybe about 13 years old, and I was visiting this on my own. I mean, I go from Brooklyn to Manhattan on the train, and they had their tours, and and I met this other kid my age, and we kind of sort of talked about drawing and writing and wanting to do doing a strip. So after the tour was over with and what have you, and basically you'd go and look over artists, working at their. It was a bullpen.
Yeah.
And anyway, so we talked about doing our own version of the old Flash. The Jay Garrett Flash.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And that's before, I think it was just about the same time that they started to do the Earth 2 business. The split Flashes on one, the present day Barry Allen Flash beats the Jay Garrett Flash. And so we decided to do a story about, the Jay Garrett Flash. Well, we were going to use his winking, blinking, and nod, the Three Stooges characters that they had as comedy. So anyway, the point is that he gave me a script that he had typed up, and I started drawing it. And when he looked at it, he says, why didn't you follow my panels direction? I want you to do this. I want you to do that. And I realized writers consider artists as their risks, not their collaborators.
Well, disagree, because not all writers.
No, I'm 13 years old, and that was my first and only run-in with a comic book writer.
So, the way you weed them out is very simple. One says they always wanted to, the other have already. And the moment they have done something already, you go, okay, I maybe am able to trust you. And if not, be their editor. You will very quickly find out whether you can work with one another or not.
Well, that was the point of this, is that I thought we were collaborating on it. And he didn't think so.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, no.
So that's where it is. Now there's other elements to it. As an animator, as a directing animator, you get a script and you get a storyboard. And sometimes, the things just don't work out. So you make your suggestions because you know what's supposed to be happening. Today's writers for animation are looking to do live action, or they're novelists. They don't understand you tell the story pictorially, just visually. If you need to keep talking, then it's a radio script.
Yeah. If you cannot show, then you're not writing the right thing.
Yeah. And basically that's, writers, especially, TV writers, love dialogue. That's how you eat up time.
Yeah. It's the worst.
And so, I take that attitude and I put it into my storytelling, my comics, telling the story visually versus filling it up with dialogue to move things around.
Mm-hmm.
And I will be very spare with what I say.
I think there's no doubt that you should be able to. The key to testing your sequential art against the script, and it should be the case that someone should be able to follow the story without reading the bubbles, without reading the,
Yes.
the speech thought bubbles. That's not to say that the story doesn't need them. In my view, it is 50-50, there's no doubt. But the way to test your art, the way to test the sequential art, is that someone can follow it without reading.
Yep.
And then effectively what the reading is doing is you're adding in the detail, you're adding in the subplots, you're adding in the character development, that kind of stuff. But the story beats and the actual way to get from A to B, you should be able to see without any text whatsoever.
Right. And sometimes there are certain things that you need to explain. Here, for example, I'll take this off here and just say, basically, I've got my character, Michael, is climbing down the ladder here and trying to flex her wing muscles and trying to get, trying to burst through the jacket here. And basically, I needed to have a dialogue, interior saying so on the next few levels, I pause to flex my retracted wings. We have during the story, we do know, that the wings of her have wings that are interior and can flex it out. But the next page is, I don't explain that I'm taking things off. I just say, this jacket is too confining, and have her toss the jacket. She's taken the jacket off and just tossed it into Josh's face. They're just some things that that you don't need to do too much.
Well, what's happened there is you can, because you know that she has wings, simply by looking at that illustration, you can see that there's some kind of force. She's trying to push them out or in some way loosen herself. So you can see that physicality in the drawing, and then the script adds the personality to it.
Yeah.
So, and I don't mean the personality of like as in emotion and stuff like that. I mean the personality of the script itself. You're adding in the humanity by saying, but literally by the sentence you put in there, you can apply an emotion. It's like I'm going up for another few levels, and I've got my wings in there, and they're retracted, and just the combination of the way that you've written that and the art is perfect. That's what it should be doing. That's what comic books. That's what sequential art is all about. Yeah,
and writing is to a beat. There's a certain I learned this studying Mort Walker's Beetle Bailey.
Yeah.
And that is, there are certainly, you take out words that are not necessary. You do not need a lot of descriptive words. Make it very straightforward, make it spare, but just make it punchy.
Yeah.
Every word it has to have more than just a connecting from one word to another. It has to have value that makes you say, I can't take any more words out of that.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Yeah.
The moment you really start needing needing words to figure out a scene, you got to figure out why you need more words.
Yeah.
And I that's something that I've been learning over the past couple of years with the Roadkill Rampage stuff. Is I do tend to it was pointed out to me that I do tend to be a little wordy, and it's so funny because I know all of these things that we're talking about on a subconscious level, but for whatever reason with this particular book, I was just trying to articulate everything with the words and stuff, and then I started getting pages for issue 2, and I was like, oh wow, he would send me like 6 pages at a time, and I would look at them and I could tell what was going on with no words on the page. And I'm like, okay, because I thumbnailed out the pages and sent them to him, so I obviously know what the hell I'm doing. It's like, all right, there, Wordy, trim this stuff down. Leave something for the reader to interpret. You don't have to spoon feed them.
That's the problem with writers. They love to write.
Yes.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Yeah.
But you get the same thing with there's always that imperfect example of our hero walking up to a hill and looking over and seeing an army bigger than any army that's ever been put together before, and you got to draw it. So it only took what 3 sentences to describe it, but it's going to take you a whole day to draw it. And that's as much as that's a bit cliche, because it isn't always fair on the writers. That I've worked with some cracking writers.
Okay, hold on. I actually have an example.
They always
literally have an example.
They always do their best. You know what I mean? They're not there to make it difficult for you as an artist. They're there to create as best they can. But it is the case. It's a different discipline, and things can get difficult.
Yeah.
Well, a writer with his show is even in novel writing, you need to show, because you have to not explain but show how, in your description, in just the writing, the beats of the story of the character. There's so much that you can do. There's always and without you have to get the reader to actually live the experience.
Yeah, in all fairness, with the description of the hero went up to the hill, looked over the hill, and saw the biggest army in existence. That's okay. It's when they say saw the biggest army in existence, and while he was looking away from you into the distance, looked incredibly worried, had an awkward look on his face, and all the swordsmen in the army below, they all looked really angry. And it's like, how do you expect me to get all those facial expressions and do what you asked me to do in the first 3 sentences?
Right.
That's where it becomes awkward.
Yeah.
So this page literally had the description, and then the birds attack.
Well, in all fairness, that's letting the artist do their thing.
Oh, yeah, no. Like, this is literally, and then the birds attack. Yeah.
And that person, because all you're doing is saying, take it away.
Yeah, no.
It's this is your contribution.
Yeah, no. This is where my interest in art goes away, and this is where you do your thing. Good luck, have fun. This took 3 days.
Oh, well, but the thing about it is that it's 3 days, but you're talking about art. It's a visual,
Oh, yeah.
You have to, you can't short shrift it.
I'm incredibly proud of that page. But yes, that was grumbling all the way through.
Yeah.
Not a proper artist if you don't grumble.
That's right.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
What we do best.
You're not doing it right if you don't grumble. And for starting artists, the grumbling means that you're putting in more effort than you actually thought you ever could.
Yeah.
You just start grumbling more. It doesn't matter how old you get. So start grumbling early so you can only get better at it.
Indeed.
Experience comes with grumblies.
So C was in the comments earlier. I just looked up and noticed a slew of comments. Excuse me. He says, let's see. In honor of C's recovery, the clicker. He says, hi, everyone. And Russ, he says, hope to be back next week. So that's good.
Good.
He says,
awesome.
Yeah.
Well, if he's back next week, I ain't going to be here.
Yeah. C is getting better. So, shout out to C. We're thinking about
you, mate.
We're very happy that you're doing better. and we miss you and can't wait for you to come back and give us shit.
Yeah.
Dave is in the house. Glenn's in the house.
Hey.
Carlos from Peru is in the house. What's up, everybody? Red Dress Press is in the house. Hi, everybody. Sorry we were ignoring you. We were just in the throes of conversation.
Yeah.
We were doing art. I know, it's weird.
We were grumbling.
Exactly. Got to be good at something, and we're definitely good at grumbling. Art is mediocre.
So, Glenn, what are you working on there? And I love that camera angle.
Who?
Glenn.
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 I'm sorry. I flipped the names. Russ.
Russ.
I was gonna say, hold on.
That's okay. Yeah, that's
Wrong Brit.
Wrong Brit. Yeah, we're all the same. You
Yeah.
know the Queen? Yeah, I know. I know the Queen.
We're only 2 steps away from her.
Yeah. We're all royal over here. When you're all royal, nobody's royal. Yeah, this is Cybermen running after somebody, and one of them's got a cowboy hat on there, and I've run away with myself with the rendering because the other one's dressed up as a mummy. So I'm gonna have to change this. But I just started getting into the pencil work.
Are you doing that? Is that you're on the computer, right?
Yes, is on the Wacom. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
So I use Clip Studio. I used to have a whole set of VFX brushes and do it in Photoshop, but eventually, like the old curmudgeon I am, I did find Clip Studio and relented and found that I loved it. So that's what I do everything in now.
Yeah, actually, what is your opinion about Clip Studio Paint 2.0?
I'd have no opinion.
But,
What is Clip Studio Paint 2.0? Is that what I've got now? I don't know.
So what they're doing, and guys, for the people who don't, and like who literally don't know, because Russ is one of them apparently.
Yeah.
So Clip Studio is turning into a subscription base for further updates. Listen to me. No, we're not done yet. Up until they reach version 3.0, and then it will be a one-time deal. So our licenses are valid. But if you want to keep updated and get the newer versions, extra stuff that maybe you use, maybe you don't. They're doing a lot on the animation side, which is good for me. But for the most part, if you don't need it, you don't get the subscription, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But they will keep the version that they updated to last on version 1.21 or something. They will keep that one working up until they reach version 3.
Right. So does that mean I can't keep using version 1. Whatever?
Oh no! You can keep using it. Like it's going to be, it's going to keep being not updated. It's going to be patched. Yeah, it's going to be supported.
Right. Well, to be perfectly honest, I literally use this as a replace or as a quick version of doing my penciling on a light box. So from my perspective, if it never changes ever again, I'm quite happy.
Yeah.
Because I'm not using it for animation or anything like that. I don't even use the built-in templates. I've got my own templates.
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't use it to manage the book. I don't use it to manage the page formatting or anything. I just literally just use it to draw on like it's a light box, except I don't have to use a photocopier.
Which is nice.
Yeah, which is always nice.
And cheap.
Yeah.
No, I'm completely there with you. But a lot of people went very angry when they heard subscription because they thought they were going to do an Adobe.
Yeah. I can understand that. I mean, it's the first thing I did. You heard me whinge. As soon as I heard subscription, I went, oh, yeah. But, you know, if it doesn't bother you, then I really don't care. So, no.
No, the way they're doing it to make it a subscription is to be able to afford people working on it more consistently, because you pay for Clip Studio Paint once and you can keep using it, right? Forever. Like, that's the whole point.
Yeah.
That's what a license is for. So the subscription is for them to be able to keep working and implement new stuff. And the moment you think about that, you know, and you keep it logically like they want a better product that they want to get done quicker. So for the professionals that need additional things to work, the subscription is a thing. But for the most part, like, you can't get the license anymore that we have.
Right.
But like, if you don't need it, don't get it.
Personally, I think that's a crock. It's just a way of making money. Or more money. You know, like we've all worked for years and years and years on a model where you bring out a piece of software, people buy it, and then you bring out the updated version and people buy that version for a slightly less than you bought it. And that model worked fine. I mean, you know, Adobe made billions out of it. Let's face it. If you make a piece of software, that's fine. This whole subscription model has grown and grown over the past 10, 15 years.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's games, whether it's software, whatever, and it's just a different financial model. That's all it is. It's not because it's in no way is it to do with people wanting to give you the best version.
No, it never is. Well,
in my personal opinion.
So here's the thing about giving people the best version of the thing you're making. Up until 12 or so years ago, you had to give people the best thing that you could because it had to work because it was on a physical CD.
Yeah.
Then corporations realized that you can download things now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's funny. From the gaming perspective, we all thought that downloadable content would be fantastic because you could get new story modes. Oh no! What you're going to get is you're going to get stupid things like horses.
No, you get a horse.
Exactly. You know, it's like, oh right, great. I got a downloadable horse. I wanted some more story. No, you're not getting that. And that's the way it works. It's like, you know, it's not about making a better experience. It's about making money.
Nobody cares.
Although that may make me look a bit cynical.
Well, no. You are completely right. Nobody cares about the gamers. Nobody cares about the creators. Nobody cares about the people actually invested in the thing that you're making, except for the people making them. Let's be honest here.
Yeah, some of them, yeah. But I mean, it's like you know, you can look at comics because we were having this discussion yesterday about comics and you know why comics have suffered and in the way that they have, and you can come up with all kinds of reasons as to why. My personal opinion is that at the root of it all, and as I was saying yesterday, this is not about whether I think this is right or wrong. Things happen, you know, things move on. But at the root of it all is the fact that comics were removed from the newsstand, and that meant that they just weren't under as many people's noses. And if you're not under as many people's noses, you don't sell as many. And if there's lots of kids at eye level seeing comics, then they forget they exist. Exactly. So I love a good comic shop, but that's what happened. Direct market made that happen. for one reason or another. There's lots of reasons, and then you can go on about all you like about the content of the comics, whether you think it's woke or not, or whether you like it or not, and you know that's all those arguments are fine, and you know everybody's got a point because it's all a personal opinion. But there's no doubt that a big percentage of the people who are involved in mainstream comics are on their way passing through the industry because they feel there's somewhere they're not making good. I know some of them are. There are, you know, it's unfair to say none of them are. That's rubbish, of course. But there's a big percentage of people who go through mainstream comics because they want to get to the script writing, you know, for television at the other end, or for Netflix, or they want to end up as a storyboard artist or an animator or whatever it might be. And they're not doing it because they love comics. Back in the day, Marvel made comics because that was their primary business. It's as simple as that. Okay. Disney, their primary business is not comics. Okay, I'm picking out those two just because it's an example. There's plenty of others.
It's true though.
But it's true. Okay, so they're not going to put that same effort into something they don't consider they're going to make a huge amount of money out of. It's pretty much as simple as that. That's what it comes down to. And there's still going to be people with passion in there. There always will be.
Of course.
But it comes down to business. And the smaller the business, the smaller the publisher, the more independent the publisher, the more likelihood they're there because they have a passion for the product rather than just making money. Yeah. It's a fact of life, unfortunately. It's not about, you know, it's not about doing people down or being down on an industry. It's just, that's just a fact.
Yeah, it's morphed into, and I agree 1,000% with you, Russ. It's Marvel and DC have become stepping stones to Hollywood.
Yeah.
Instead of a destination, or it was.
For me, it would be a destination. I don't want to do. I have done storyboarding, I have done illustration, and all kinds of other stuff. As far as I'm concerned, you know, if somebody said to me tomorrow, "I'm going to give you a monthly job," you know, pulling out a comic on one of the characters you knew as a kid, it's like that'd be there. That would be the end of it for me. I wouldn't. There's no like, oh, and what do I get afterwards? Where does that get me? No, that's it. That's the end of the point. That's the end of the story. Yeah, that's all I've ever wanted to do.
You would ask, how long can I do it?
How long is this contract for?
Can I sign a long-term contract, please?
I'll do it for slightly less and do it longer. Believe me, you know. And that it's that passion, which is what we were talking about, what we were alluding to earlier. That passion for sequential art and for comic books. It's something very special, I think. And I think people have it for animation as well. You know, there'll be people who absolutely love animation or love film or whatever, but it's that comics at the moment. I think comics are suffering from being kind of like a stepping stone for an awful lot of other industries.
Yeah, and I mean, you see it on social media all the time. People just outwardly talking about, you know, get this done, and then I'm gonna, you know, pitch it to Netflix or whatever.
Yeah,
and that's the end goal.
Yeah. I mean, for instance, with me, with Only Death Can Save Us, if somebody came up to me and said, "We'd like to do a Saturday morning cartoon show of this," of course, I'd love you to do that. But I didn't make it to do that. I made it because I wanted to make a comic that I loved.
Right.
Okay, and hopefully other people would love it with me. That was the point. That's it.
Yeah.
It's the be all and end all of it.
Yeah.
That's the same way I'm making Love and Quarter. Yeah, I'm doing an animated pilot, but that's because I want to learn something new. Like, it's not the goal of the actual comic itself.
No, and also that it you know, there's nothing wrong with doing that. That's your passion. That your passion is not just the comic. Your passion is the creation. And if there's other ways you can get that creation out, that's your thing. It doesn't. I'm just not in that space. If somebody came to me and said they could animate it, that's great. I'm just not in that space, but mainly because I'm a lazy bugger, and I don't want to animate. Okay, I just want. If I had
that is a good reason.
I would just do pencils. Do you know what I mean? I'd lay out pencils day after day after day after day after day and let somebody else ink it. And I would love to have been in the bullpen, you know, 30, 40 years ago. That would have been my absolute dream to have done something like that.
Yeah.
And I know there's a lot of nostalgia around it, and there's a lot of, it's not quite as amazing as it's made out to be, but just the concept of being in a team where I could lay down pencils and I knew that an artist, and I'm not, this is not putting down inkers at all, believe me, okay, because I'm doing it myself, right? But an inker who was an artist in their own right, like somebody like Joe Sinnott, for instance, who could draw amazingly well, okay, but he inked over other artists, and between him and great pencilers, they produced amazing work together. And the idea of being teamed up with another artist like that, that would be an absolute dream. It's never going to happen now. It's just the world has moved on. It's a different place. I have to ink all my own work anyway now, so I can just blame myself if it's rubbish.
Yeah.
But it's that kind of thing, you know, just like drawing pages and just churning them out and getting them out there. Although I have to say, yeah, two issues in a week doesn't sound like fun.
That's not fun.
No, that is not fun. I am absolutely loving this piece, actually. Surprisingly.
So, Russ, let me ask you. We were talking about favorite artists earlier. Who are some of your favorite artists?
All right. Well, top of the list is John Buscema.
Okay.
My list for the day when we were talking about it was John Buscema was top, and actually Joe Sinnott came in directly after him because of the inks, because of the lines, because of the way that he laid that ink down. It made such an influence on me. Steranko and Stalin very soon after, and then a sort of a combination of Gil Kane, Dave Gibbons, and Brian Bolland for the way that they laid down so much. They created on such a high level. And just their scene depiction, their anatomy, they were all round artists. Those three, all round artists, fantastic. But there are so many other artists that have an effect on you, and it's really difficult to pin them down. But all-time favorite, and it would have to be John Buscema. Yeah, that's it's the end all.
I have a feed on Facebook that's Avengers Forever.
I
guess, and they've been posting all of these Buscema covers.
Yeah,
and which I believe Senate inked.
It
was either Senator Tom Palmer, who I absolutely love his stuff.
Yeah, both of them. Yeah, I mean, how can I have that list and not have Tom Palmer in it as well? It's just such a restrictive list,
right? and the thing that I take from it, looking back on it, my initial thoughts back then was, because I was a kid. I was so silly with my preferences and stuff at that time. I was aggravated that John Byrne or George Perez or Neil Adams wasn't drawing it, but I still liked it. And looking at it now through my older eyes, I look at it and I go, "Oh my God, this is just so solid."
It is, yeah. It's just,
it's just.
But you look at any of those artists. You look at Byrne. You look at Stalin, Buscema, Adams. The list goes on of that period of time, and everything was just so damn good.
Yeah,
it was just it laid down the basics. It laid down a form of communication. It made American comics the way they became. And there's a lineage back there. You like, we look back at people like Wally Wood or who did Prince Valiant.
I was just thinking, I can't remember his name.
Can't remember his name. I'm just crap with names. But just like you go back to EC Comics and all those guys and the fantastic work. And Toth, I didn't have a clue about Toth, and it's like it's just work has just blown me away. So we're all standing on the shoulders of giants, and I think the current version of comics, Western comics, American specifically, I think suffers from a little bit of over illustration.
Yeah.
That's not to say it isn't beautiful, and there aren't some great talents out there. There really are. But I look back at some of the work, and I think that there was something special about the Bronze Age.
Yeah.
That it was just a special kind of language in its own right. And it's got a special place in my heart, I have to say. Some of that is nostalgia, obviously, always is.
Absolutely.
But that's okay.
You know.
Nostalgia is fine.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, go ahead.
You know, it's interesting that you listed off a name of giants, and then you mentioned EC, and then I immediately thought of Bernie Wrightson and that whole
Yes,
cadre of artists, the horror artists and stuff, where it was a whole different thing, but it was just as amazing and solid. And
that's what I was saying. There's so many people that have an effect on you.
Yes.
It's such a unique thing. Comic books and comic book art and the artists within, and that's what I was saying, they can affect you from beyond the grave. Like it doesn't just go across your contemporaries, it goes backwards in time as well. And it's a special thing. And I mean, you just can't. We had this discussion as well. How can you just keep it to 5 names? You can't.
Well, I'm just going to throw. I mean, now we're talking about illustration. Okay, I go to the other end. I go more into the cartoony, caricatured line. For me, it's kind of like, I mean, it's like Jack Cole with Plastic Man doing. Then you have Eisner.
Oh well, Eisner, yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
Jack Cole. I mean, there's that whole crew of people who were, Lou Fine, all of the people who were said the quality comics line of people. There was a cartoonier aspect to it. They pushed boundaries, and that's where my connection with animation with Willie Mullen. It's a cartoony or caricatured line where with comic books you could take a very serious story and treat it with a cartoonier impression, a visualization of it, but yet it still be very serious, and you could just it makes you stop and look at things. It gives you a chance. I'm not trying to be dramatic, but I'm trying to evoke a feeling that
Eisner was the master at that. Doing that.
Yes. So you're talking about with Eisner, the stories are more like in terms of the who would he wanted Chesterton. Was it O. Henry kind of story? Now you're talking about a different type of genre, which is not superhero stuff.
Oh yeah, no. Yeah, Western comics, but not superhero comics. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's where I fall into myself in terms of what I prefer. But yet, where's the market for that?
Well, unfortunately, the market for that is in Europe and in Japan.
Exactly.
Well, that's why we publish him too.
American. The problem with American comics, and this is somewhat what's happened to British comics, is they got pigeonholed quite a long time ago.
Yeah.
Into being a particular way, and either they were for kids or they were a particular way. And because you used to have all kinds of comics, romance comics and horror comics, crime comics, all kinds of slice of life comics. Even back in the day, you had, and they all got distilled, especially with the direct market. They kind of got distilled down into superhero comics.
Yeah. And
now the mainstream have this issue where they think that every kind of genre of story has to be pulled out through the lens of a superhero.
Right.
Okay, so whereas some of things like manga, for instance, you've got golf comics, fishing comics, slice of life comics, comics for different genders, comics for different persuasions, all kinds of
Yeah.
different comics for lots of different people, and they're all unique in their own fashion, which means that you can bring in a massive market, whereas everything now has got to go through a talking heads page of superhero, and it's like that doesn't work. Make superhero comics, bish bash bosh. Maybe there's some sci-fi stories, maybe there's some depth in stories. If you want a deeper story, go do something else, which is much like what DC did when they had Vertigo.
Right.
You know what I mean? They sectioned that off, and it produced fantastic stuff. Vertigo did excellent material because they weren't trying to force it down a superhero hole. And I think that's kind of what's being suffered at the moment to a degree.
Do you think that the indie market is suffering the same way on Kickstarter and Indiegogo?
I think that there does seem to be quite a breadth of different type of stuff. I think the market will always will out. The market's gonna work out what's good and what's bad and what people want to read. So it's difficult to answer, to be honest. It's not an easy question, is it?
No,
but I think the indie. I think right at the moment we're in the possibility. We're in a golden age of creativity because people are kind of going, well, the mainstream seems a little bit stifled. It seems a little bit stale in places. Mm-hmm. Let's look for something else. And independent books are absolutely blowing up. And there's such a breadth of content out there.
Yeah. Yeah. And the variety and depth of the stuff that's available. I mean, if you just flow through Kickstarter on, for a half hour, you're really blown away by, there's some lesser quality stuff, but there's just some amazing stuff. I found a book just doing exactly that, just flipping through. Tina was like, "Hey, check out my verbiage on this before I post it," and I'm like, "Okay." And then I went off down a rabbit hole and found this amazing book, and I'm like, "Oh, this is absolutely gorgeous. I don't know who this guy is, but I gotta have it."
Yeah. There is stuff like that out there. That I noticed. I saw an ad on Facebook, which made me very interested because it was similar in some of the ways of the stuff that I'm doing. I'm doing a project with Randy at the moment, Randy Zimmerman, and the Cole books have become public domain. Mm-hmm. So we're doing that, and there was a advert for a black and white hardback version of Dracula and Frankenstein on Facebook. Ooh. And it was beautiful. The format was gorgeous, hardback, but it was $90.
Oh,
but it was 2 books in a slipcase, $90. But it's like tempting, because it was absolutely gorgeous. The illustrator was fantastic, and it just goes to show that there's so much different stuff out there. There is lots of different stuff out there. It's something for everybody, I think. Yeah. I think what you've got to do is you just got to find a way of getting people to look. That's the difficult thing.
That is the difficult part. Is you when comics were everywhere, it was a chance.
Yeah,
you could stumble across it.
Yeah,
To now, you have to go. It's so focused into there's a bottleneck.
Yeah, no, there is.
You have to seek it out.
You really have to, and you have to know to seek it out.
Exactly.
You can't stumble around it.
Right.
Yeah. Which is why we have to look at things like manga, and not the content of manga,
right?
Okay, but the way that they're marketing themselves, the way that they're getting out of a bigger audience. That's what you've got to learn the lessons of. How do they do that? How does that happen? How do you make yourself viral? How do you get out to that audience and make people want you?
Here's the catcher about that, right? Like, manga comes out like weekly magazines of 30 to 90 pages, black and white, In total, like we're talking, 5, 6, 8 pages a month from a comic, and then every month they will have their 30-page issues, which then can get bound into the volumes that we get over here.
Right.
Once you get those magazines out there, people will start reading them. The point is to get to that point, and the problem with the independent market quality and quantity is that we are so decentralized. Like, we have all of us together would have enough stuff to last us a year doing that, making a magazine, putting it out there, and do it monthly, for example, and probably, get it out in the United States, in the Netherlands, and in the UK. We could do that. And it doesn't have to be costly. Like, there's ways to do that cheaply. But that is an investment. And then you have to think about, how do you reach your comic stores? How do you reach your supermarket?
Yeah.
There's 2 magazines in the Netherlands that get read most by all ages. Donald Duck and the Tina, which is Donald Duck for girls.
Right.
I mean, and those are weekly. And they have comics. They have slice of life things. They have, Donald Duck is really just comics, but the Tina is a girly slice of life thingamajig magazine, whatever. It's a girls' mag. And yes, I've read both because my sister had the Tina and I had a Donald Duck. So you switch around after every week. Who cares? I was 12.
So, mate, you have to explain yourself. What you do in your own spare time, it's totally up to you.
Yeah, exactly. But once you get to those magazines, because those are the best-selling things in Japan, like those magazines, and people collect them, and people trade them, and like, if you can get that off the ground, you're set. That is what you need.
Yeah. I think what you've got is some of it is about being cool, and comics, unfortunately, are not cool. Okay, they haven't been. I mean, if you think about it, when we were kids, comics were like for nerds, and even though lots of people read them, they didn't admit it. But comics were ubiquitous. They were everywhere. But if you admitted to reading them, you were a little bit, you're a little bit of a nerd. But then you were a bit of a nerd if you liked Star Trek. There was all kinds of rubbish you have to deal with as a kid. But they have, in some ways, they have become cool. They've also suffered for that. But the whole thing that underpins it is a disrespect by the establishment and by established art, by the art establishment for the art of sequential art for comic books. They're for kids. Okay. So first off, they had to save kids from them in the 50s in the US. All right. And then they would belittle them as though, they're just for kids. Okay. And even now, you've got a dichotomy in things like, let's face it, like Marvel Comics. Marvel Comics, there's especially they talk a lot about adult items. So, for instance, it's okay to talk about gender, and it's okay to talk about bigotry and the wrongs of the modern world and all that, and that's great. That's good, and it's okay to introduce kids to that stuff, but you don't want to be bashing them over the head with it. Okay, no, you want to be doing it gently. And you can't. There's so many Marvel comics I look at now that I think, I wouldn't give that to my 10-year-old.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. And so are comics for kids, or aren't they? And then outside of that, like I say, you have an old, certainly in the UK and in America, there's this way of this sort of looking down upon sequential art and comics as an art form, and not giving it the respect that it's due. Well, there is none of that issue in Japan. There is none of it. You have old people, young people, all kinds of mums, grandmothers, anybody on a tube reading manga.
Yeah.
Okay? everybody, or not everybody, but it's not seen as odd. It's not seen as uncool. Okay, it's not seen as cool. It just is. It's no different to reading a book. It's no different to reading a newspaper. Okay, but at the same time, it's also cool as far as the content. So somebody might be reading one about fishing. Okay, that's not necessarily cool, but they're reading a manga. That's okay. Nobody minds. Okay, but then kids might think, oh no, I want One Punch Man. Okay, or something like that, and that's cool. Okay, that's cool. And then all that has now transferred over into the West, and manga is cool. Okay,
but what makes
your stuff cool? Okay, I don't know. Don't get me wrong. I'm not giving you an answer here. I don't know.
My question is, what is the difference between manga and comics?
Well,
the fact that it's from Japan.
Okay,
there's a cultural aspect to it. There's just the fact. I mean, the fact that you read it the other way around. I mean, that doesn't make it cool, but it makes it different in the West. There's all kinds of things that go into a fad, aren't there? There's all kinds of things that go into something that makes something suddenly cool, and people want to go out and buy it. Young people. I don't understand young people anymore because I've not been young for a long time. But there's such a myriad of aspects to all of this. But making your stuff cool, finding a way to make it so that people want your stuff, that's the key. It's not always even about the story or about the content. Sometimes it's just making it cool.
But let's be honest here. Okay, so you had your early weebs, from the mid 2000s, like 2003, 2005. Naruto became a thing. Dragon Ball Z in the 90s. Let's be honest here. And then suddenly people realized those were comics.
And
those comics came out weekly. And you got a lot of content for it.
But we were talking about this the other day. It's like, but because there's let's be open and honest about it. In the Western world at the moment, there seems to be this aberration that everybody hates history. Okay, everybody hates what's gone before. You can't pick out the good things. Yes, there were bad things, but you know what? 1,000 years ago, everybody was killing each other. Anybody in the streets. That was the way. That's the way history is.
The only thing that mattered was Europe. I mean, let's be honest here.
Exactly. Yeah. So there's this thing about history being bad, and that's kind of eked into the way that corporations work and the way that entertainment works. And so a lot of older comic books, they don't want them out on the streets. Or they only want them in special bound editions, artist editions, or whatever. But there's a whole bunch of stuff going back from like 2015 all the way back to 1985 that you could whack into a weekly comic, a big sort of like 100 pages, and sell it for a couple of bucks, just like Shonen Jump. And you would make hand over fist. You would make money, okay? But and here's the clincher, and this is what I was talking about earlier. You wouldn't make enough money. Corporations don't make money out of comics. They don't make enough money out of comics, so they can't be asked to do it.
Right.
So it's down to us. It's what it comes down to. It's down to us.
And the worst part is they want money now. On the long run, if you have a reader that will, one, read your material, two, enjoy it, they will come back again and again and again. But a movie, you go to a movie once, and you got, a 1 in 10 weirdo that will go twice.
Well, unless it's Star Wars, and you go.
Unless
then you go
Mario.
Of course. I mean, it makes sense.
I think the thing you've got here is I repeat this story. Thank you very much, Roland Man, because you told me it. Roland Man worked for Marvel and for Malibu, okay, and this is paraphrasing it quite a lot, but he effectively was saying that if you went into a pitch meeting for Malibu, being a much smaller publisher, and they said, "Do you think this will make money?" and they went, "Yeah, this will sell," that's enough. But if you go into a Marvel or Disney pitch meeting, they'll say, "How much money will it make?"
Yeah.
It's not, is it going to make money? It's, oh, well, if it doesn't make more than X amount, then we're not going to bother doing it, even if it does make money. Yeah. So
exactly.
it's about scale. It's about scale in business. And the larger the business, the bigger the scale they're looking at. And comics as an industry just is not in the same ballpark as games and films and TV. It just isn't. But that doesn't mean it can't make money. It doesn't mean that you can't have a good, strong, viable business out of making comics, as long as you give people what they want. That is that's the only
exactly. That's the only right way to do it.
Really.
Well, and I think that's why the indie market has exploded so much, because it's become quite apparent to the discerning eye, which, let's be honest, all comic readers have more of a discerning eye than the masses, the quality of the stuff that the big two are putting out, and what the content is. And people are just, when I say people, I mean us. We're taking it upon ourselves, who grew up with the love and passion for the comics. We're just doing our thing.
Yeah.
The people picking up on it, and that's becoming where everybody's gravitating to, stuff that we're all doing.
I think there are people out there that would probably scream at me for being this and saying I'm a milquetoast on this. Personally, I think it's down to consistency.
Yeah.
I don't think it's down to specific stories or specific artists or specific creators. You can argue backwards and forwards who helps and who doesn't, but consistency. So across the board, there isn't the consistency there used to be. There are sparks of brilliance, and then the rest of it is pretty much meh.
Yeah.
And that's the problem. Whenever you say meh about anything, that's your problem.
Well, back in the day, there was competition. Once again, back to John Byrne. He did, the Fantastic Four for 5 years straight. He did the X-Men for 3 years. And George Perez did Titans for 50 issues. It was a badge of honor. I remember hearing Adam Hughes talk about when he signed a 24-issue contract to do JLA. His friends were like, "Oh man, you're stuck. You got to do it." What were you thinking? He's like, "I don't know what you guys are talking about." He says, "I've got guaranteed work for 2 years."
Yeah.
It's that.
Yeah.
With that pride in how many issues you can get. What's your run?
Yeah.
Well, even Kelly Jones, we had him on the podcast Thursday Night Third a couple weeks back, and he said, "I had to do my run because I grew up with John Byrne's run. I grew up with George Perez's run. I grew up with Buscema's run on Conan." And he said, "I wanted my run. So I did 3 years of Batman." And he says, "No matter what happens to me 20, 30 years down the line, everybody will say, 'Oh, remember Kelly Jones's 3-year run on Batman.'"
Yeah.
That doesn't exist. They do 6-issue arcs so they can put them in a trade.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And unfortunately, as much as we revere, early Image, to a degree, they kind of shot everybody in the foot, because what happened was they started to move away from artists and be concerned about creative teams being more important than the titles. And what that meant was you started mixing up teams. You say, "Okay, I'll put this team on there and I'll take them off after 6 months and put them on there," and then it became 3 months and it became 6 issues. And so the continuity has gone, and the consistency goes as well. And you can understand why say Marvel did it back in the day, because that they got spooked by what happened with Image. But it's meant that it's very difficult now to get yourself a run, like you're saying, on a good title with a consistent team. Yeah. That's my dream, like I mentioned earlier, to be able to do that. When I got a run on Batman for Hero Time in the UK and Europe, it was only a short run, and but I still got a run. Do you know what I mean? But the idea of being able to do something like that for 18 issues or 20, or 36 issues or something. Wow, what a thing to do.
Yeah.
Guys, we've been going for a good long time. Yep. Sorry to interrupt. Time flies when we're having fun, and I mean, talking to you guys is always a pleasure. So.
Oh yeah, I didn't even realize we're past. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, guys. So I guess we have passed the quitting point. So let's do what we always do. Let's go around the circle and tell everybody where you can be found on your socials. Jimmy, Mike, let's start with you.
All right. Hey, everyone. I am Mike Jimmy Lortia de Bruin, creator of Live on Korra and CEO of Fairies and Ends. You can find everything about me over on linktree/Fairies and Ends or at fairiesandends.com. And of course, every Thursday, whenever I'm actually there, which has been very little last couple of weeks. Sorry, guys. Vacations are fun. You can find me on Hung in Animation every Thursday afternoon, 1 p.m. Eastern. And let me switch my camera around too, because we can. And I'm at my phone. Boop, there's a fade. Hey, everyone. So yeah, that's where you can find me. How about we go off to John?
Okay, I wanted to show off my shirt. I really like that shirt. So there you go.
Today too.
Yeah. I'm John Celestri. As I said, I create my Bloodwing Angel, also known as Fire Fist Angel, and on my John Celestri Comics.square, and you'll get check out all the various pieces that I have, the various episodes and such, and check it at John Celestri Comics. And also, I'm on Facebook and on my YouTube channel, where there's a lot of videos of our animation and comic book creation. And so, there you go.
All right.
And I'm here on Saturday, Sketchy Saturdays.
Excellent. All right, Russ, what about you, buddy?
Thank you. Yeah, you can find me in the pages of Batman, Hero Time Presents, my own book, Only Death Can Save Us. Also been appearing in Doctor Who magazine on and off. You can sign up for my Instagram account. There's a new piece of art every day, or archived art every day. Also, if you can sign up for my email list, that's over on my website. All the social medias, all that kind of thing. Also, I appear on Friday morning with Randy Zimmerman and Glenn to do Comics by Night, where we look at various artists from the past. And also Sunday Funnies as well, which is a good fun program where we talk about comics and animation and stuff like that. So any of those kind of things you want to see, I've also got some merch and stuff over at the site. So go to russleach.com and all my connections, all my networks are there. And you can find everything you need at russleach.com. Okay.
Excellent. Go check it out. And I am Rodney Fyke. You can find me on the socials, Rodney Fyke Art, Instagram, Facebook, Twitch. And you can also find me at hasm.com and right here on the Indie Comics Network 3 days a week, Mondays at 5:30 for Fyke It, Let's Draw, Thursday nights at 8 p.m., Thursday night Throwdown, and right back here every Saturday morning at 10 a.m. for Sketchy Saturday.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
That's